Kakalosh Boker Or, Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Yomi Daf Memchet Amud Aleph 48a1 says the Gemara. The Gemara is talking about right now that Rava comes and he says, why is it that we could not learn the Isur of using Tashmishe Met, which means you're not allowed to use the dormants of a deceased person from a Gezerah Shava from Avodah Kochavim? Why don't you just learn it from a Glarufa? So Amar Lecha, he's going to come and he's going to answer you. Mishamshim gamnina. We're going to learn one of the shimushin, which means the things which are using from another mishamshin. La'apuke, this comes to exclude eglarufa, tehi gufa kedusha. Because he says, remember that the eglarufa is itself kadosh. It's not just a mishamshin. So because of that, you cannot learn, you cannot compare both of the things together. Abaye, and according to Abaye, that he says that you do learn it from Gzeresh from Eglarufa. He says, "My tama lo gamam avdok." Why didn't you learn it from Avdok Kochavim? Amalecha is going to tell you, "Midi de orche midi de orche gamrina." And it's much better to learn something which is normal from something which is normal, which means that when you come and you have an isur because of something which is normal to do, which is tashmish shemet, from something else that is normal. Le'apuke, this comes to exclude avodah kochavim. That is not normal. Okay, what does that mean? It's not normal. It's not derech lasot et zeh, right? Why? Because every single person, right? Kol bnei adam asurim la'avod avodas zarah, so that you can't learn from tashmish shemet. Fine. Now we have a siman. Siman is kippah, nafshe, the chatziva, nachzeh deumna. Okay, it's in brackets. Fine. Let's start. Meitveh. We're going to ask the following question. We're asking now on Rava from the Mishnah to do with tumat midras. Okay, kafe, which is basically this kafe is a tzaif of a woman. It's like like a like a, what do you call those things? Like a shawl or whatever you want to call it for the women. Okay, the tzaif. It's like a scarf. Shu tameh midras, which becomes tameh midras. That means it becomes an av hatuma. Okay, now he comes and he says, right, as follows: untanato lesefer. So now the woman that she comes and this is her belonging, she puts it for the sefer, for a kisui, for the sefer Torah. Tahor mina midras. Now it becomes tahor mina midras because since it becomes a tashmish for the sefer Torah, so therefore it's not for a human being anymore. It's not for a human being anymore. It's not going to be tameh. Aval tameh magamidras. But if it's going to be tameh, which is still magamidras, which is tumat nega. Nega is if it touches something, right? Which is a rishon letuma. Okay, so he comes and he says, in such a case, right? He says, and then you give it to the Sefer Torah, it's not going to be the same halacha. He says, so the Mishnah is teaching you that it only helps if it's, so here obviously it comes out that has mana milta, which means that the second that you designate it, it's something, it's already designated, it's already the purpose, which that's like a bayi, not like Rava. So answers the Gemara, Eima netanato ukrachato. It wasn't just that she gave it to it, she was miachedet. She gave it and she put it around. Meaning, when you actually put it around the Sefer Torah, it's not anymore Hazmana. What is Hazmana Milta? Imagine right now I build this building, right? And all of a sudden I come and say, this is a bathroom. But nobody uses a bathroom. Does that make it Tamil already? So that's the machloket, Hazmana Milta or not. Because once I designated it for that, does it make it that it's already like it? Or no, you have to actually use it before. So here, what we're trying to say is that she actually came and she rolled it around. So since she rolled it around the Sefer Torah, it's not just Tam Hazmana anymore. It's mamasha, you used it. So once you use it, it's a different halacha. So says the Gemara, lama li nitanato kerochto. See, he says 1 second, but why does she have to do such a thing? Right? If be'emet, she already put it, so therefore, even what do you mean she also has to designate it? She put it on. You don't have to designate. If I come and I roll it around the Sefer Torah, I don't have to designate it for the Sefer Torah. And yes, that's something different. So he says like this. He says, "Kid Rav Chasta like Rav Chasta." Tamar Rav Chasta, hay sudra dazmene lemeitza betfilin v'tzar betfilin lemeitzar bepshite azmene. He comes like this. When you have a sudar, now remember this sudar, you have two things with it. You could either use it for money, you put your money inside of this pouch, or you could use it for tefillin. So he comes and he says like this. When you have the sudar that you are miyached for tefillin, and you put the tefillin in it, so for obviously you're not allowed to put money in it. Why? Because once you designated it and you used it, it's tashmish kedusha. Azmene velo tzarbe. What happens if you designated it for tefillin, but then you didn't use it for tefillin yet? Tzarbe velo azmene, or the other way, you used it, but you didn't designate it. Shari lemei tzarbe pshita. You are allowed to use it, right? Why? Because it did not become a tashmish kedusha. So therefore, it comes out that according to Rava holds in Rav Chasta, hazmana by itself does not prohibit it unless you actually start using it. But if it's going to be like a one-off that you use it without azmana, that's also not good. Meaning it doesn't do anything. Meaning if I'm going to use it as a one-off, that doesn't mean that this is what you're using, right? Why? Because a one-off does not say this is the purpose, right? Okay, one-off. I didn't have anything else. Okay, I used it, but not because of that it becomes holy. And according to Abaye that he says azmana miltai, he says azmene afal gav de lot sarbe. He comes and he says if you put it, even if you do not come and put the tefillin before, right, which means that you did it yichud, right, which is hazmana, right? You did hazmana, but you did not put it before. Sarbe, if you actually put the tefillin there, I azmene in, ilo azmene lo. Only if you actually were doing the hazmana, then it's yes. If not, no. That means according to him, right? He comes and he says, only if, since according to him, he says, so therefore, even the yichud of the chefetz is already going to be enough. That's already enough. Because the second that you're doing hazmana, right, that's already enough. Hazmana is hazmana miltai. Okay? Only if you do the hazmana. If you didn't do the hazmana, it's nothing. Okay, fine. So now we're going to try to answer up who's the halacha like Bayir or Rava. Is hazmana miltai or not hazmana miltai? So Tashima, we're going to try to bring a proof. Nefesh, when we're talking about a nefesh, we're talking about a binyan matzeva on top of a kever. Okay? Shebenao l'shem chai. Now, they built it for a person that he's still alive. Okay? So they built it, but it's for when he passes away, obviously, but he's still alive. Mutar bana. It's going to be mutar bana. However, though, hosif bo dimos echad l'shem met. If they added one row for a deceased person, it's a surbana. So one more time, they built. Remember, if it's going to be for a dead person, it's a surbana. For a live person, it's mutar mana. Now they built it for a live person, but it's for when he dies. But it's right now he's alive. So therefore, as long as he's alive, even though he was a hazmana, they designated it. It's going to be when he died. It's still okay. However, though, they added one row for a deceased person, one row of bricks. They added one row of bricks for a deceased person, kaddish. Why? Because now it's for a dead person. So now that's it. Now it's going to be a surbana. So says the Gemara. He comes and he says like this. He says, 1 second. This Braita is teaching you that the fact that you added one row of bricks, it's already a sur, even if nobody was actually buried there. So it comes out hazmana mintahi, like a baye, even though nobody was buried. Because I just said, if you add one row of bricks, it's a sur. Remember, for the deceased, yeah? It's going to be a sur. But now 1 second. Did you actually bury somebody there? No. So if you didn't bury somebody there, what do I care that you added a row of bricks for the deceased? That's hazmana lav miltai. You're going to say that we go like Abaye. So answers the Gemara, no. You did put the deceased there. So since you put the deceased there, so that's why it's not only just hazmana. You actually used it. Once you used it, there's nothing more to talk about. Right now it becomes asur bana. Okay? Next, so my idia hosif. Why is it that you have to add a row? Even if you didn't add. It's the same halacha. So he says, why? Because even if I didn't row or add anything, the second that I put a deceased there, Kaddish, what do I care if I added a row or not? I put a deceased there. So answers the Gemara, what are we dealing with? Afal gav de panye. Even if you took the met out of the keved, right? So it's the same halacha. Right? Why? Because you're never allowed to use it anymore. Because it's not anymore on a shimush akrai for the met, because you added a row of bricks. And once you added the row of bricks, there's nothing more to talk about. Amada frambar papa manav chasta, says from papa name of chasta. Imayama kiro, if the person knew the shurat avanim, right? Cholso umutar, take it off, and then it's mutar. If you knew which row of bricks were added for the deceased, take off the row of bricks. Torid it, the shurat avanim, take it off, and then it's going to be mutar bana. Fine. Next, Tashema, another proof. Remember, whenever we have Tashema is always trying to bring a proof to one of the shitot, obviously. So each time you have to think which one is it bringing a proof to. So it says Tashema, meaning we had a machloket Rav and Abaye, hazmana mintai or lav mintai. So now we have to understand what is the halacha. Is the halacha that hazmana, that means when you designate something, it's already considered that it's already the usage or not. So Tashema, hachotzev kevel laviv, ve'alachu kvaro bekever acher, if a person is going to come and he's going to dig a kever for his father, And then he went and he buried the father in another kever. So he says nobody could be buried in that kever. Right? Why? The fact that he did it for the met, even though he didn't actually bury the met there. That's it. That's surbana. So therefore, he went and he dug the kever for his father. At the end, he said, "You know what? No, he wants to put his father somewhere else. Nobody can now use that kever. Hazmana milta. So there's a proof like Abaye that Hazmana milta. That means even though they didn't actually bury anybody there, it's already designated. That's it." Answers the Gemara, no. There it's a completely different halacha. There it's mishum kavod aviv. There it's because of the kavod of the father. And therefore, since it's the kavod of the father, that's why it's going to be asur. Hachenami mistabra, it's also logical to say so. Tektani seifa, but we learned in the seifa, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, it says, Afa chotzev avanim le'aviv. If somebody's going to dig, right, from the mountain for the father, and then afterwards he came and he buried him somewhere else. If you're going to tell me mishum kavod aviv, then it makes sense. But if you're going to tell me because of anah, hazmana, he says tavui lariga, right? Mika lemandama. He comes and he says, "Can you actually say such a thing?" He says it doesn't make sense. Okay, fine. Yes. So he comes and he says like this. He says, Tashema, we're going to try to bring another proof now. Kever Chadash. What about a kever, right? Chadash. So he comes and he says, right? He says like this. When you have a kever Chadash, which means that nobody ever put a deceased person there, mutar bana. So he says, itilbol nefel. If you put a nefel there, it can be a subana. Itilin, lo itilo. Only if they put it. If they didn't put it, no. So answers the Gemara, who adin dafal gav delo itil, even if they didn't put it. Ulapuka the Mishmon Gamliel, and it comes to exclude Mishmon Gamliel. Tamar en lenefalim tefisat hakever kamashpalan comes teach you right that this is halacha. Tashema, we're going to try to bring another proof now. Motar hametim lametim, motar hamet liyorshav. What does that mean? Right, whatever's left over from the tzedakah that they collected for the metim goes for the burial of metim. Right, and that's what it says. So he says lemetim, motar hametim. Right, is lametim. Motar hamet liyorshav, meaning if it was general for the deceased, the ones that pass away, so then there's a fund. And if it's not for this one, it's the next one. You continues going, but it's always for the people that they passed away, for the kvurot and all those things. But if it was going to be a tzedakah for a specific human being, a specific person, and there's leftovers, it goes to the family. זאת אומרת, גבו כסף בשביל המת הזה, הולך למשפחה. אם זה למתים, אז זה למת אחר. Right? Continues going. Okay? Fine. So again, this is obviously showing you that if the Mishnah is telling you mutar hamet, and it's telling you it's mutar bana, so it's a different halacha. He says, what are we dealing with? Shegavu mechayim. They collected the money, right, during the lifetime of the person. Halo tanihach. He says, you didn't learn that way. He says, Tetran, as we learned in the Mishnah, mutar metim lemetim, mutar amel yoshav. He says, whatever's left over for the metim goes to the metim. Mutar amel yoshav. Tanya la keitzad. What's the case? Gavu lemetim stam. If they just stam collected for the metim, so it goes to the metim. Kavul lemet ze, if it goes to this met, ze umotar amel yorshav. So now he comes and he says, but one second, when you're saying lemet ze, it's mashma that the person already had to be dead. Lemet ze, hu kvar met, right? He's already passed away. So if it's like that, so this is a proof to Rava that it's not just enough husband amiltai, he actually passed away. So says the Gemara, according to reasoning, let's see the Seifa. Rabbi Meir says, Lui gabahen. Don't touch motar hamet ad shavo Eliyahu Navi. Right? Rabbi Natan Omer, Yaaseh dimus al kivro. Use it to make a matzeva. The dimus is a matzeva. Make a matzeva. Make a monument on his kever. Or ziluf lifnei mitato. Or they put wine in front of the mitah during the time of the levaya. Right? Which is again for the kavod hamet. Right? Remember, the wine was for the smell and everything. So that way they used to do it before for the kavod hamet. So he comes and he says, Ela Abaye metaretz tameh v'Rava. You're right. Each one is going to answer according to the reasoning. Remember, we're always going back. It's always a machloket Rava and Abaye. Hazmana mintayi, hazmana la mintayi. So here, each one is going to answer according to his reasoning. Abaye is going to tell you metaretz tameh dechuli Elmaleh according to everybody hazmana mintayi. That hazmana be'emet is a milta. Right? That means when you have tzedakah, which is designated for met, it's a surbana. Why? Tanakama savar dechazi letafis. He says whatever is fitting for the met is already tofes, which means the tzedakah which is needed for the kvura immediately is a surbana. Telo chazile lo tafis. Whatever is not fitting for the tzedakah for the burial is not tufes for tzedakah. For Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir is misafkale. He's got a doubt whether it's tafis or tafis. Hilkach, therefore, lo yigabay not shevoleo. Don't touch it until Rabbi Yanavi comes. For Rabbi Natan, pshita ledvat tafis, and according to Rabbi, right, to Rabbi Natan, for sure it's going to be grabbing on. Hilkach yaselo d'musal kivro, and therefore you're going to do the musal kivro. One more time, everyone's with me. One more time. Abaye comes and he says, right, hazmana miltahi. So he comes and he says this: when you come and you're going to give tzedakah for the met, immediately whatever he needed for his burial is tafis. That's it. It's already a subana. Why? It's for the burial. Whatever that was not needed for the burial was not tafis anymore. So therefore, it's not hazbana mintai because you don't need it, right? So from the beginning, since you didn't need it, even according to the Bayit, it's not going to be holy. Rabbi Meir, he said, I have a doubt. Why? Because maybe even if I didn't need it, maybe it's still tafis for the met. So since I have a doubt, wait until Eliyahu Navi Zacholatov. Comes Rabbi Natan and he says, for sure it's tafis also. So therefore, what does he say? So use it for a monument. Use it for the kever. Okay, you're not going to use it for the coffin. Use it for the monument. The matzeva. Use it for the matzeva. That is the first shita of Abaye. Now let's go to Rava. Rava metaretz tameh. Lechu le'alma azmana la mintai. Remember, according to Rava, הזמנה עליו מילתא. מה זאת אומרת הזמנה עליו מילתא? מה שאתה ייחדת זה כלום. Whatever you designated is nothing. So he comes and he says, Tana kama savar, Tana kama holds, ki bazulei, when a person are going to be mekabel, right, they're going to be mekel in the kavod of a person by collecting tzedakah for him, achule machel zilute gabe yorshin. He's going to be mochel bizyono only for the Yerushim. Okay, which means, right, would a person want to be embarrassed in order that his family should benefit? They're asking for tzedakah. Who's getting embarrassed? The family. He's already dead. Nothing what to be embarrassed about. So the question is a person going to be embarrassed, meaning would he allow himself to be embarrassed letovat yorshav? So according to tzedakah, vaday sheken. For sure, yes. So therefore, the leftover money goes to the Yorshim. Rabbi Meir, mesafkalei machil, ilo machil. Rabbi Meir, he's got a doubt whether be'emet he's going to be forgiven or not. Hilkach, and therefore lo yiga bahen. Do not touch it. Right? You don't touch it. Why? We have a doubt. Is it mochel? No mochel. Rabbi Natan, pshita lo machil. He comes and he says, Rabbi Natan, for sure he's going to be obvious that what? He's not going to be mochel. Hilkach, and therefore, ya'aseh dimos al kivro ziluf lifnei mitato. Right? You're going to make a dimos, a matzeva on the kever, or you do ziluf mitato. Why? Because for sure he's not going to be mochel. You have to do it for him. Meaning, if he's already being embarrassed, you have to use it for him. You can't use it for anybody else. But he's not going to he doesn't want to be embarrassed for anybody else. Okay? Fine. Go back again. Tashema. Why? We still didn't answer Hazmana Minta or Lav Minta. Because every single thing that we brought, we kept on answering it up. So there's no one right side, right? Each one, we keep on saying, again, the same thing. So Tashema, another case now. Hayu aviv ve'imo mizrakim bo kelim. Yeah, imagine right now, right? A person passes away. Yeah, and the father and the mother are throwing on him kelim, more than what he needs for the tachlichim. Right? Why? They were so mitztaed, right? They wanted Kilu to throw everything in there, he'll set everything. Yeah, so they're throwing everything there, right? They're throwing on him all these types of utensils and everything. Kilu, right? To be buried with him. Mitzvah la'acherim la'tzilan. It's a mitzvah on other people to come and to take it, in order that they shouldn't be buried with him. Why? It's a mitzvah, v'shavat aveda. You have a mitzvah to give back a lost object. This is like a lost object. So you have to take it away, right? And try to give it back. Okay? Memchet amubet 48b. So says the Gemara. So now 1 second. If you're going to tell me this, we learn from here, Hazmana lav milta. Because if you're going to tell me now Hazmana milta, so then the beged, right, the begadim would be prohibited immediately. So he comes and he says, Hatam mishum meraraihu. No, there it's completely different. They're so bitter, they're not doing it because of Gemilut Dat. So therefore, you can't bring a proof to Hazmana Minta, you're not La Minta. They're so bitter, they're so upset and sad, and so that's why they're doing such a thing. So you can't bring a case, right, from one to another. Huh? If so. That's what he said. I'm showing one of these words. Only if it didn't touch the coffin, right? The mita of the met. But once it touches the coffin, Asurin, that's it, it's a subana. So therefore, according to that, so now what's the reason then? Right? Why? Because once it actually touches the coffin, kamarnu, it's azmana and maseh. It's that you designated it, plus it actually used it. So once you use it, that's it. There's nothing what to do. So he comes and he says, Tirgama la, Tirgama ula came and he said, B'mitani kberet imo. No, we're talking about that the coffin was buried with him. Temechalfet b'tachrichia met, which is basically it's used for the tachrichim of the met, for the shrouds of the deceased, and therefore, since people are going to see it, you can't just permit it anymore. So in such a case, that's it. So Tashima, we're going to try to bring another proof now. Kis shasao le'aniach bot filin. Imagine you have a keys that was made to put tefillin. Asul laniach bo maot. So you're not allowed to place maot. Hiniach bo tefillin, yaniach bo maot. If right now he put tefillin, so now he's allowed to put money. So says the Gemara, Ima sao ve'niach bo tefillin, asul laniach bo maot, kederav chasta. So why don't we just say that when you have a keys which was made to put the tefillin on it, ve'niach bo tefillin, you're not allowed to put the money on it, like Rav Chasta. What does that mean? We don't say that a beged of a tefillin is going to be a sub shimush unless it was also done hazmana and also you actually used it. So therefore, when we just said beforehand, kisha saol tefillin maot, it means it was hazmana plus you used it. Because if you didn't use it, then no. Okay, and if you just used it one off, we said also it's not. So Tashema, we're going to try to bring another proof now. Amar leuman aseli tik shel sefer. Or nartik shel tefillin. Imagine right now, somebody comes and he says, make me a tik of a Sefer Torah, or make me a nartik of tefillin. Ad shelo nishtamesh ben kodesh, until you didn't actually use it for the Sefer Torah, for the tefillin, you're allowed to use it for it, chol. Nishtamesh ben kodesh, once you used it once, asul nishtamesh ben chol. So this is teaching you the what? That once you're miyached et zeh, it's not enough. So hazman alav minta, it's like Rava. So answers the Gemara, you're right. This machloke between Rav and Abaye, after all the back and forth, who are we trying to prove? Like who? Says it's machloke tanaim. Remember that whenever we can, here you have Rav and Abaye. There are Moraim. Whenever we can, we always try to say that the same machloket that they have between the Moraim is actually a machloket tanaim. So I'm trying to bring it back over here. You understand? Which is the higher level. That's what I'm trying to do. So let's see.
So what does it do?
No, it just means that they have what to rely on because their machloket was not a new machloket. Their machloket was already an old machloket and it had to do with something else. And that's what we're going to bring down there. And you always try to do that because many times you try to say that this machloket is not like a new machloket or something. It was really be'emet, the same old machloket, but just manifesting in another way, and therefore it's coming and bringing this. He says like this. So it says the Gemara, Tanai, it's a machloket Tanaim. Why? The Tanya we learned in a Braita. Tzipan zahav. What happens if you made for the tefillin a tzipui of zahav? Yeah, it sounds good. No, dude. You want to invent it? The first one. Yeah. Tzipui zahav. On the outside, a tzipui. Yes. Yeah. So on the boxes. So he says, or shetala lehen or shel be'emat me'ah. Or you made the batim from an or of be'emat me'ah. Psulot. Right? It's going to be pasul. Or be'emat teora. It's going to be kshirot of bishalo ibdal nishman, even though you do not do the ibud lishma. Rabban Shimon Gamliel says, Af be'or be'emat teora, it's going to be psulot at she'abdu lishman, until you're going to make it ibud lishma. Remember, ibud lishma means you have to process it for the l'shem kiddushat tefillin, for the tefillin. So Tanakama told you that you don't need ibuda or for tefillin. He holds azmanaz lav mintai. And therefore, you cannot say that it's going to be chal, right? The or, on the or, any ma'ala that you're using it for tefillin. Rashbag holds that you need ibud for the shem tefillin. He says, why? Because he holds hazmana minta. And therefore, it's going to be chal, right, on the fact of the shimush of the tefillin. So Shitat Rava is hazmana lav minta, right? And that's what he's saying. So Rava is hazmana lav minta. It's like Tanakama. Okay? That's what we're trying to say. Okay? And the Shita hazmana minta is Rashbag. So we want to make the machloket Rava and Abaye, the machloket between Tanakama and Rashbag. Okay? Until here we're clear? Which are Tanaim. Okay? So he comes and he says this. He says, Amale Ravina Rava. Says Ravina to Rava, Mi Ika Duchta Dramu Bemet Ve'arge Begev Lemet. He comes and he says, 1 second. Right? We're not going to say that. He says, why? He says, we're talking about, right, that they're putting a met and they're weaving the clothing for him. He says, was there any place where they had such a minhag? Meaning, when they come and they're going to make the tachlichim, They do it beforehand. They don't do it, they don't do it afterwards, right? Imagine right now, they're going to wait. Somebody's going to die. Okay, just leave him like that. And then, now let's start making the clothing. Well, you have to do it beforehand. So Amalei says, yes, yes, it does exist. Why? Kegon Shachve de Harpanya. It says, Met Harpanya was a certain place they were aniim. So therefore, they didn't have money for taklichim. So when somebody passed away, they would collect tzedakah, and then they would make and they would weave and they would do everything. Why? Because they couldn't do it beforehand. So there does exist a place where they would do it beforehand. Okay? So Darash Mineimar, Hilchata Kavate da Abaye, V'Rabbanan Amre, Hilchata Kavate da Rava. So the Machloka Mereima V'Rabbanan. What's halacha? Is like Abaye, like Rava. Hilchata Kavate da Rava. Halacha is like Rava. So therefore, how do we paskin? Hazmana lav mintai. It's not considered minta. When do we paskin like Abaye?
Few cases.
Ya'al Kigam, exactly. Ya'al Kigam. You remember we just learned it recently. It was Ya'al, there was the Ed to do the Ed Zomem and all those things. So Ya'al Kigam, meaning usually the halacha is always like Rava, except for Ya'al Kigam, Yod Ain Lamed, right? Kuf Gimel Mem, right? Mem Sofit. Okay, so therefore that's the general rule. And each one of them is specific cases. That's why Ya'al Kigam, that's a siman, just to remember it. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned Tanu Braita. Haruge Malchut, right? When a person comes and he's going to be killed by the Malchut, Nichsehen lemelech. Everything that happens to them, right, goes to the king, meaning all their property to the king. Haruge Bedin Nichsel Yoshim. But if they are killed by Bedin, the properties go to the Yoshim. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Haf Haruge Malchut Nichsel Yoshim. Says Rabbi Yehuda, even Haruge Malchut, it goes to the Yoshim. So Amru le Rabbi Yehuda. So they told Rabbi Yehuda, Valo Kvar Ne'emar, it's written, Hine becherem navot asher yarad sham lirishto. What does that mean exactly? We're talking about Achav ben Imri took the kerem of Navot. Okay? Now, what happened is Achav HaMelech, he wanted the kerem of Navot, which was right beside his house. So he went and he told the Navot he's going to give him a beautiful kerem somewhere else. Navot didn't want. He said, why? It's Nachalat Avotav. Belongs to his fathers, his grandfathers, great-grandfather. He didn't want. So what happened? Izevel comes, and she said, go testify falsely against Navot. So they went. They had edim zomemim, obviously, but the edim came. They testified that Navot came and he blessed the king. Obviously, blessing is the opposite of the king, right? So what happened? They killed him. They did sekilah. Then what did they do? Once they killed him, they took his property. So Hashem comes and he tells Eliyahu Navi, go to Achav Melech Yisrael and tell him that the kerem of Navot, right, asher yarad sham lerishto, that he went down to inherit it, right? He says, so now one second, what does it mean, Sherat Sham Lirishto? Mashma Lirishto means that it goes B'tzura Yerusha Minadim. Not Shel Gizim, not like Kilu that he stole it. So therefore it comes out that Haruge Malchut belongs to who? To the king. One more time. We just said, if it's Haruge Malchut, it goes to the Malchut. If it's going to be Haruge Betin, to the Yorshim. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Right? Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda says, no, Haruge Malchut goes to Yoshim. He says, one second, we have a proof. The proof is Achav. You're right, they did a kombina, obviously, because this was all the Zebel and everything and doing the kombina. But let's pretend it wasn't a kombina. Let's pretend it was truthfully. Right? That he came and he blessed the king and they killed him and everything. It goes to the king. So Amar Lahen, Ben Achiva, right? Ben Achi Avivaya, Beraoil Yoshohaya. Says, no, really Be'emet, right? This Navot was really Be'emet Ben Achi Aviv. What does that mean? It was Ben Dod. It was his first cousin. It was his cousin. Vera'uil Yoshoya, and therefore he was fitting to inherit him. So because now you understand why he was right beside the kingdom, right? Meaning right beside the palace, there was another, what was a property of the Kerem, the vineyard of Navot. He went and he didn't want to sell it because it came from his father. So now, but obviously he wanted it. So he just went, they did this kombina and they killed him. So ask the Gemara, fine. But one second, what do I care if he's a ben dod? Hayalo banim. Im yesh la ben adam banim. If somebody has boys, does a cousin inherit him? Obviously not. So what does it mean that he's inheriting him? Right? Kilu yoreshoto. Yesh lo banim. So it says the Gemara, Amarla, and he says, Oto ved banav harag. He killed the entire family. Shneimar b'zeh pasuk, im lo et deme navot v'deme banav raiti. He killed Navot and all his children. So now there's nobody else. The Rabbanan, so according to the rabbis, that really behemet, he did have banim. So what does that mean? Haul banim aruyim that said mimenu. He said no. When it said banim, it didn't mean that he killed the banim now. It means he killed more banim that were fitting to come out from him. Because he could have had more children. And he didn't have more children. So those are banim that could have come from him. And that's why it says that the banim were screaming out. So Bisham al that's good according to the Mandamar Nichsem Lamelech that it goes to the king. That's what it says. Berech Navot Elohim v'melech. But according to the man, the Amar Nichsem Yorshim that goes to Mershim, Lama li v'melech. What do I care about the melech? So he says, V'litamech, according to your reasoning, Elohim lamali. Why did I have to say that he was Mikalel Gam Hashem? Ela but rather la pusheritcha. He wanted the Dayanim, they wanted to get more angry. Meaning if a person just comes and curses a king, okay, fine, no. But he cursed Hashem, now the Dayanim, they're angry. You cursed Hashem? So what happened? Here also, they wanted to purposely come and to get anger against Navot. So the witnesses came and they said, yeah, he cursed, again, everything with Hashem and also the king in order to make the balagan. So Bishlam al-Mandamar, this is good according to the Mandamar Nichsem Lamelech that it goes to the king. Hainu Diftiv, that's why it says, Vayanos Yoav el Hashem v'chazek bekonot. It says that Yoav came, he ran to the oil Hashem, and he grabbed the karnot mizbeach. Uchtiv and it's written, Vayomer lo ki po amut. So he comes and he says, Yoav thought that if he's grabbing the karnot mizbeach, Shlomo Melech couldn't kill him. Right? That's what he thought. He thought he wouldn't kill him. And therefore, yeah, on top of the mizbeach, you have the karnot. Yeah, so even if he grabs on one of them, it's already enough. Karnot mizbeach. Yeah, one of the corners. Yeah. No, any corner. Right? He comes, he grabs on the karnot mizbeach. That's already enough. So he thought, okay, fine. He was going to stay there until he dies, obviously, or whatever, because of famine or whatever, because he can't leave. So what's he going to do? But according to the Mandamar Nichsem Yorshim, Mainaf Kamina, he says, what's enough Kamina to Yoav? At the end of the day, what did Yoav think by grabbing to the corners of the Mizbeach? Even if he's going to be Harugim Malchut, so what? Anyway, he's going to his family members. So therefore, it comes out that Harugim Malchut, everything goes to the king. So answers the Gemara, you're right. You know why he grabbed onto the corners of the Mizbeach? Nothing to do with the Nechasim. He only did a L'chaye Sha'ah, to live a little bit longer. Even if it's going to mean that he's going to live another few hours, but he wanted to live a little bit longer. So he grabbed onto the karnot mizbeach in order to be spared. Okay? Vayasho benayahu et hamelech davar lemor kod ber Yoav echwanani. Elmaleh, he comes and he says, so there basically it's talking about that Yoav came and he spoke a lot of things over there, but it doesn't tell us all the things. So he says, poamut. Elmaleh zil Elmaleh gotal Shlomo melech tarti lo tave ba'agavra. You can't do two things to me. Ikat lele, if you kill me, so then you have to accept the klala of your father. And if not, so then leave me to get the klala of your father. He says, go, you're right. Do exactly what he said. Accept the klala and go kill him. So if you remember, on this Gemara, right, we gave an entire shiur on Parashat Bo, on the power of speech. Power of speech. Why? Listen to the Gemara. Amar Rav Yudah Marav, Kol kelalot shekilel David et Yoav, all the kelalot that David HaMelech gave to Yoav was nitkaimu bezaru shel David. It happened to the children of David. Why? Because he went and he said, Al yikaret mi bet Yoav zavu mitzora machzik papelech v'nofel b'cherev v'chasel lechem. Look how many kelalot. You're not going to have from the house of Yoav a zav, mitzora, machzik papelech, means that he's lame, he needs like a baston, he needs like a cane. Nofel b'cherev, somebody that's going to be killed by the sword. V'chasal lechem, somebody that needs parnasa. Zav was Rechovam. Why? Dichtiv v'amelech Rechovam mitametz la'alo b'merkava lanus Yerushalayim, uchtiv v'chol merkava she'irkav lav hazav itma. So therefore, it's a gzera shava. So he became a zav. So Rechovam, the son of Shlomo, he was a zav. Yeah. Next one, Metzora, Uziel. Uziel was from David, right? King of Judah. So he says, "Dichtiv cheskatu gaval libo ad lashchiv iman ba'al Shem Elokav vayavo elecha Hashem netila mizbach lektoret uchtiv atzarat zercha b'mitzcho." He had tzarat in his forehead. Next one, machzik b'pelech, the one out of the cane from Asa. Asa was the king Melech Yehuda. Dichtiv rak leziknato chala et raglav. He was sick with his legs. Amriv damarav shachazo podagra. That he had podagra, gout. Yeah, he had a gout, so he needed like this cane in order to walk. Amale morzuta bedel Nachman Nachman Hechidami. What is this? Amale, it's like machat kibasar chai. It's like you're putting needles inside of a person's skin. Menayada, how does he know? Yibaitema demecha shavechayshvei, either because he himself had that. Yibaitema demarbe yavagamale, he had a mekubal, he had a kabbalah. Yibaitema, or if you want, you could say so. Which means many times the Baruch Hu gives the secrets, right? To with ruach hakodesh. Nofel b'cherev. What is nofel b'cherev? Yoshiyahu. Dichtiv, it says in the pasuk Yeru. Hayorem l'melech Yoshiyahu v'ramiv l'marav she'asal kol gufo kavara. He made his entire body like a sieve. He was poking. Mamash, they killed him. Mamash like a sieve. Chasar lechem is michanyahu dichtiv aruchoto arucha tamim nitanalo. So you see from here, right? The what? All the klalot that were supposed to go to Yoav now had to go to David HaMelech. Why? Because basically Yoav went and he told Shlomo, you want to kill me, you have to accept all the klalot. So the yesod that we brought down, well, this was from the Pele Yoetz, right? He basically brought down the concept, right? I don't remember if it was the Pele Yoetz or the Brit Avot, which is the Pele Yoetz, which is on the Sefer Chasidim. He comes and he explains that the concept is that when a person makes a klala, it has to be chal. The klala has to be chal, meaning when somebody curses, the curse, the second it goes into this world, it has to go on something. Either it goes on the person that it was intended to go for, but if it doesn't, then it goes back. And it goes to the person that gave it. And that's why it comes and it speaks about that if a person should be worried even of a kilat chinam, right? And then he comes and he says, and especially, right, if it's going to be the klala that is going to go back, that if it was for no reason, it goes back to the person that gave the klala. So here, right, what happened is that the klala had to go back because if right now he's going to kill Yoav, so now he can't fall on Yoav. So if it can't fall on Yoav, it has to fall now on Shlomo Melech. So that's why Shlomo Melech accepted it in order to come and in order to, right, kill.